Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here at July Board of Education meeting. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask the roll be called.
Flu,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Posthauser,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Reed, here, Zawin.
Here.
All right, thank you. Please all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag All right, we're going to move into the public participation portion of the meeting, and Dr. Parker will begin with the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our July meeting. As always, we continue to focus on safety in our buildings and at our meetings, our top priority in our district, and we'll start with our safety minute as we do for each meeting. I just need to make sure I have volunteers to call 911, first aid responders, and anyone certified in CPR. If you could raise your hand. Thank you very much. Our exits are off to our right and to our left, and our AED machine is in our main hallway to the right. It may feel like summer break to a lot of you, but we're busy getting ready here in the district for the students and the staff to return in just a little over 3 weeks. So far, we're welcoming over 50 new employees to our district, both certified and non-certified, starting in August. Our teachers will be attending a 2-day teacher orientation on August 8th and 9th, and we're excited to welcome all of our staff back on August 15th at Teachers Institute. Members of our Board of Education will also be in attendance and have been invited to come serve breakfast to all of our staff, and I know that that was something they enjoyed and our staff did as well last year. Special thank you to our athletic leadership team. They presented their mission and their philosophy to the Board of Education in an earlier meeting tonight, and this team just spent numerous hours working together to create a document, and kudos to Mr. Kreider and his team as they've provided some new direction for our athletic department moving forward, and we appreciate all their hard work. Another area we've spent a lot of time on under the leadership of Mrs. Beverland is, as you can see, in the area of human resources, and so I chose that to focus on for our district dashboard tonight, and we updated our scorecard in June, and so you'll see different measures that'll come up until we get ready to update it again. So if you'll look up at the data dashboard, you'll see that 100% of our employees now have job descriptions. And as you can see, back in 14-15, we only had 39%, so that's a huge improvement for our job descriptions. For our employee handbooks, we're at 66%, and that'll be at 100% here just within a few months once we finish all those up. And we're at 45% of our employees that will be formally evaluated, but as you can see, we'll be at 100% here in just a matter of months as well. So that will be something new for all of our non-certified staff. Will begin to be evaluated this year, and that's something we've been wanting to do for a long, long time. So thank you to Mrs. Beverland and her staff as well. Just a reminder that the August board meeting will be the second Wednesday of the month instead of the normal third Wednesday. For those of you that would like to attend the board meeting, we're also hosting a meeting on safety with Peoria County Sheriff's Department and Peoria County School Administrators. Will be here in early August, and they will be reviewing all of our safety procedures for all of the Peoria County superintendents with us. That's all I have for tonight. I want to thank everybody again for all of your efforts and your attendance this evening, and we're looking forward to having everybody back in school. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Harper. At this point, I'd like to ask if there's anyone who wishes to address the board. No one? Okay. All right, seeing no one, we'll go ahead and conclude the public participation portion of the meeting, and the board will now move into information and discussion items. And board, under information and discussion, the first item was school activity account reports that were available for your review. Are there any questions regarding those accounts? All right, the second item we have is the VIST program, and we have Mr. Fairchild and Mr. Jefferson. They're going to present information regarding this behavioral intervention support team pilot program. Welcome.
Thank you. You have the information item in front of you. I didn't know if you had some questions about that.
As you see, we had a couple of schools representative, Richview and Banner. We took a group of teachers to this 3-day training right at the end of May, beginning of June, and we're going to pilot the program this upcoming school year, and we've got some teachers really excited about trying this out this year. Didn't know if you had any questions.
The only question I have is I know we kind of pushed this upon you in these last few years, or not, I don't want to say pushed, but encouraged the restorative justice, the positive behavior interventions. Has that been well received, and is that going well?
We're still learning some of those terms with our staff. This training that we had, I mean, I felt like we weren't pushed into doing it. We had teachers that wanted to attend this, and I mean, there was no pressure or anything like that. And to be honest, we had many teachers that said this is one of the best trainings they've ever had, and so I really felt it was worth our while. So we plan on this upcoming school year. We're having a conference call with the people from this BIST organization, and we're going to look to see what that professional development looks like for this coming school year for our 2 buildings to give it a try.
So you're going to mention you're excited about this. Can you kind of just give me an idea of why the excitement, or what you liked about it, or what's neat about this?
You know, I think teachers deal with all sorts of behavior all day long. And I think when you talk about these types of things, they can identify right away. And I think they picture a student in their mind, okay, I wish I could have used this strategy with this student. And I think that's what makes it's very applicable immediately in the classroom. And whenever they can do something like that to help with their culture in their classroom, their climate, I think that's very beneficial to them. And they could just see this is what we need to do in the building. We can do it building-wide, have consistency. So I think that's why they really liked it.
Kind of to answer, I'm sorry, kind of to answer Beth's question or statement as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is something, actually, Mr. Jefferson came in first, and then the 3 of us met, and they were very excited about it. It wasn't driven by us, and it was something that they came to me, and I'm sure to Allie as well, and just said, hey, I just remember when Todd came in my office, and he said, I'm just really excited about this, and I hope you will be too. And so I was very excited that they took the initiative on that.
You know, we have students with some different types of needs and different behaviors that we're sometimes encountering, and I think this comes at a really good time for all of us. So, do you have a question here?
Yeah, I saw a presentation on this once. I can't remember where it was, but it ended up, what I'm wondering about is what does it really look like? So the restorative justice presentation I had was where you took kids from the school, ended up meeting in a circle with, and other people that were affected, and you talk about a behavior problem and how it affected everybody, and then the people decide what the punishment is, the kids almost. Is that this, or is that something
It's not
different?
that. There are several
Okay.
different models
Okay.
for circles, restorative justice, and I think a lot of them really interact and have some of the same principles. It's not quite like that at all.
Okay, so what
It's-
does it look like?
That's a good question. Depends on the behavior, but essentially it's building relationships with kids and teaching kids correct behavior rather than just being punitive.
Okay.
Teaching kids the correct behavior, and there's certain stages, and I could go for 2 hours on this, but I
Okay,
won't.
but it doesn't involve students, peers,
No.
peer analysis, okay.
No. Now you could always incorporate, a kindergartner working with a 4th grade buddy on certain skills and things like that, but it might look a little bit different in every building, but the model generally is very consistency across the building, across classrooms, and how we approach kids with discipline.
Okay.
That's really exciting, because I was really pushy actually about the restorative justice to get that in there, because it does so much. And Karen, what you mentioned is just a little
Okay.
it's a period within a paragraph,
Mhm.
really. And it's nice. I'm glad to hear that this model just flows right into that and allows kids to really learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
mistakes.
And teaching the correct behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had 6 teachers from each building. Now it's our job to kind of bring it to the rest of the staff. So the rest of the staff is still they don't really know a whole lot other than some emails that have been sent over the summer, so
Not as excited as you.
they don't know yet. So, but that team is really excited, so, and I am too, so, yeah.
Good to hear.
Thank you for your leadership with that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good work.
Thank you. All right.
All right, Very good. Now we'll have an athletic update for Dunlap High School, Dunlap Middle School, and Dunlap Valley Middle School from Mr. Kreider and Mr. Johnson.
Well, thanks again for giving us some time here to talk a little bit about athletics. And Mrs. Creel could not be here tonight, so I'll cover a little bit of Dunlap Middle for you as we go through. But to start off with there, each slide kind of has the same theme here. Participation numbers will be over on the left-hand side, and we continue to see really, really good numbers at the high school in all of our sports. But some highlights here over the fall. We set 2 records, and I'll get to the other one here with all conference in a second, but 29 here in the fall were either first or second team all conference performers in the Mid-Illini, and that is quite the honor. Boys golf finished 3rd in state this year. They kind of lead the way here all time, I guess, in school history. They've got the state championship, a 2nd place finish, a 3rd place finish, but it was quite the first year for our new head coach, Daniel Young, who did a fantastic job this year and is creating some extra spaces for golfers as well. But great job by Coach Young. Girls swimming, again, they continue to perform just at the highest possible level with their Mid-Illini Invitational champions. We still don't have conference swimming, wish we did. But the IHSA sectional title came home again. Girls across the country had a tremendous season as well. Mid-Illini Conference champs won the sectional. I learned something a little bit about cross country this year as well. I was at a different athletic event. I got the text that we finished, I think it was 3rd in the regional, and I was like, I couldn't believe what my phone said, but we have such great depth on our cross-country team. We actually rested our top 3 or 4 runners because of injuries, and the top 4 advanced, and we were so sure. I mean, it was just, that just kind of shows you where we're at right now with cross-country. Moving on, they did finish 6th overall in the state, another tremendous finish by cross-country. Soccer came through with another IHSA regional title. And then kind of to cap off a little bit here in the fall, our football team, at least for the first time in my tenure here, made the playoffs. You need 5 wins to qualify for the playoffs, and that really set the tone for a great fall season for all of us. And to see the community come together, and some of the student sections that we had, if you want to slide to the next slide here. That's what all of our football games were like this year, and it's fun to see. And actually, I need to thank some of our football players for showing us some of the problems that we had with our bleachers. So, but overall, great fall. Another slide there of our state golf team as well. Moving on to the winter, I always include cheerleading and dance in here as well. Numbers continue to be strong. Boys swimming won the Mid-Illini Invite again and had a tremendous season again. The tough part about swimming is that, like when you look at football, I mean there's 8 classes in the state. Soccer there's 3 classes. Baseball there's 4 classes. So you're competing against schools your size. But when you go to swimming, it's just 1. We are competing against New Trier High School and all the big boys up in Chicago, and that just tells you how strong our swimming program is. And that's our best finish in state in the state meet by far. We continue to host a lot here at the high school as well. Whenever we get an opportunity, we host IHSA events. In the winter, we hosted boys and girls basketball. And kudos to the high school staff. We always find enough people to volunteer and work the gate or work extra time and do extra things, because it gives us a competitive advantage if we do.
And do they have to volunteer for that?
Certain ones they do, but a lot of them we pay them through our IHSA fund. So yeah. absolutely. Just a couple of pictures here on the left. You see Gabby Reed, who was a senior basketball player for us this year, did a tremendous job in the Country Company's three-point contest, made it all the way down to state. Super proud of her, and that always try and, you know, at the state swim meet, it's such a different atmosphere than so many other sports. I was standing in the corner there because it was standing room only in a 1,200 seat, you know, arena there for swimming, but it's a pretty intense competition. In the spring here, again, this is probably our busiest time. You're constantly on the go here and battling the weather a little bit. But again, the other record here, I mean, look at that first number. I mean, 27 first-team all-conference performers. And these athletes are invited to the Mid-Illini banquet as well, where we honor first-teamers. And to say that Dunlap was the dominant force there in the spring is an understatement. Girls soccer won the regional. Went on, unfortunately, we had 3 of our starters, top players, standing on the sideline during the sectional, watching us lose a very close and tight game to Peoria Notre Dame. But they're making strides to get there. Track, a couple things with girls track. They are not only the back-to-back Mid-Illini champions, but they're also back-to-back sectional titles. They won their first one in school history last year, and then successfully defended that this year. They went down to the state track meet in Charleston, had a great first day on Friday. Saturday, got down there right after we were hosting the regional here. I got down there, and to watch all the parents sitting there with the programs, they were calculating points and different things to see if we could sneak into that top 3 and get a state trophy. And we missed it by a couple of points. And you know, to me, that kind of we talked about earlier today, that athletic culture. This is the kind of culture I think that we want, where you know the girls were excited that they got 4th place, but I think they also left a little disappointed that they didn't get that state trophy, and I think that's what we want. Again, what we hosted in the spring, sectional tennis, sectional track, which are huge on-takings for our staff, softball and baseball regionals. What I'm finding is that nobody wants to host those regionals for baseball and softball, but we get it out there and get it done every year. Boys tennis won the Mid-Illini Conference. Very excited for them with that. It had been a little while, and to see Coach Gornick gleam a little bit at the all-conference meeting was kind of nice. Victor was our Journal Star Player of the Year again. He's an outstanding talent. He's a lot of fun to watch if you get a chance. He's a very powerful player. Finished in the top 12 overall in the state. Tennis is the same as swimming, where this was actually last year. Next year there'll be classes, but this year he competed against everybody in the state. There's no class system there. And then Ashwin and Atishay were top 32 in doubles as well. Just a couple picks there at the end of some of our conference champs there that kind of end the season. This slide right here, a little bit difficult to read, but it's the overall all sports standings for the Mid-Illini. Again, we're competing with those other 7 schools. You can see after if you start in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see Dunlap will finish 2nd in the fall, right there behind Washington by about 50 points. So we had an extremely strong fall season. A lot of conference champs there. When you move to the winter, notoriously that's where we drop back a little bit. Part of that is because we don't have wrestling. Talk more about that maybe here in a little bit. But we drop back a little bit and we come back in the spring. But overall this year, we finished 4th overall in the Mid-Illini standings as a school.
All right, good evening again to most of you. Excited to share some of our highlights that we had at Dunlap Valley during the 15-16 school year. On the left for all the slides, you'll see our participation numbers. Just looking at some of our highlights, our varsity baseball team, we had 4 team or individual records tied or broken during the season. Our girls cross country team earned the 3rd place finish at the El Paso Gridley Invite, which is always a fun invite for the kids. We had 2 state golfers that qualified. The state changed it up a couple of years ago where they have to play in a sectional now, and if they play well enough and shoot a good enough score in the sectional, they qualify for state. So the 2 golfers that we had, Kelly Ryan and Thomas McCarrick, both qualified for the state golf tournament. Our boys cross-country team finished 16th in state. Brad Kimmerling, one of our 8th graders, finished 12th place out of over 200 runners for boys. And our 8th grade girls basketball team finished 4th place in the state tournament for this year. In the winter, we had our 8th grade girls volleyball team. They had an 18-3 record. Very fun season to be a part of and to watch. For speech, we had 3 Judges' Choice Award winners and 19 first-place ratings. That's at the IESA State Speech Tournament. The Judges' Choice Award is the highest award that can be given that night at the state speech competition. We also had a request from the IESA last year to bring 4 of our Judges' Choice participants to the speech workshop. And so we had 4 students, the students on the left in the picture there, went to the IESA speech coach workshop, and they performed for coaches from around the entire state of Illinois. And in that picture there, they were excited and really happy to meet Ken Bradbury, who's he wrote the script for the skit that they performed. And so he watched them, and he was just all just grins and wanted to come out and thank them and said they did a phenomenal job. So that was a highlight for speech. Our cheer team finished 4th place in the small team cheer division, and our 7th grade chess team finished in 4th place in the state competition. Here in the spring, Devin Henson was nominated for the IESA Scholar Attitude Award from Dunlap Valley. We're allowed to nominate 1 8th grader each year. We were the Scholastic Bowl host for the Peoria County Tournament. We had about 20 teams in on a Saturday for the Scholastic Bowl Tournament. We finished 4th place there. We had 8 track state qualifiers on a tough sectional day around the state, very windy, and across the state of Illinois. I want to say that they said they had about a 1/3 less state qualifiers because of the weather that sectional day. Jordan Stromquist finished 11th place in state for the 200-meter dash. Aiden Schultz qualified for state in 2 events, and we had several school track records broken during this season.
All right, back to Dunlap Middle, and certainly Mr. Chatterton, if you want to interject anything, go right ahead. Same theme though, activity numbers over there to the left, pretty impressive numbers over there. But a couple of highlights here, cross country, we can tell again where we get a lot of our talent here at the high school. Girls were first at the DMS Invite and at sectionals, and they were the state runner-up. I got a chance to get over to that event over in Bloomington. It was quite the setup. DMS Cross Country Invitational. I don't get a chance to really see that set up when they go down, and Holly and all the people help her to set that up, but the sheer numbers of schools that come to that are incredible, and I know it takes a lot of time and effort to set that up. Looking at speech, IESA State, 70 events overall, 47 first place and 7 Judges' Choice Awards. 2 students presented at the Fall IESA Speech Workshop, and then at the Speech Invitational, over 200 plus events representing 9 schools. Again, another big event that they host there at Dunlap Middle. Moving on to the winner, we have chess, 7th grade state runners-up, and 6th grade finished in 4th place. Poms were the regional winners. Moving down to Scholastic Bowl, we had their first place finish in the Peoria County. Busy hosting regionals, and in the state series, they had great titles in the regional and sectional, and finished in the Elite Eight. And then finally here in the spring, great track season again. We hosted the sectional. Holly approached me in the fall and asked if that's something that she should do, and I told her we host everything else, so why not host it at the middle school level as well? You know, we could not have done it though without the help from Dunlap Valley. They're the coaching staff, and Antonio and Jason helped out a ton. I will say I was very thankful to Holly as well. We make a little bit of money at some of these, and she donated some of that to the track activity fund here at the high school so that we could purchase some more hurdles and replace some different things for track. So that was awesome. Again, sectional track team results. 7th grade girls were in 2nd place, 8th grade boys in 2nd place, and the 8th grade girls won the sectional track meet. 20 state qualifiers, 2 of them had medals. Isaiah Curie with the 8th grade boys 400 meter dash, and Campbell Peterson, 7th grade girls 1600 meter. Looking ahead, just a couple of things here. Earlier, I know we talked about the athletic leadership team, but we're really looking at that team to drive a lot of our decision making and our improvement in the athletic department overall. We're very excited about that. 2 sports that we're really going to investigate and look at, this coming fall, wrestling. I have met with several parents over the last few months on what our participation numbers would look like at a lower level in the grade school, middle school, have listened to their feedback, and they've given me some ideas and things to think about. And we're going to work on some information and kind of see where we can go and what we can do with wrestling. I know that as the high school athletic director, it's something that I am very interested in. I think it would be good for the high school, but does it logistically work, and how would it work? So we're just in the investigative stages right now.
So why have we not had a wrestling program?
The only information I can tell you is that, I remember myself being in high school here, there was never enough numbers to do it. And then listening to Mr. Peterson, there was never a call for it.
So we just haven't had the numbers in the past?
That's exactly right. Greg's absolutely correct. We have surveyed.
So we've never done that, the high school's never had wrestling?
We've tried a couple times and just didn't have the interest. So I'm happy to see us looking at it again.
And so what about the co-op perspective, where we co-op with, different sports now? Could you co-op with another wrestler? Did we do that now then, for some of our kids in our?
What we did this past year is we actually had a transfer come in that was a senior. His parents were transferred because of their job, and he was a very, very good wrestler at his previous school. So what we did, we found him a sponsor, which was Coach Tintino. He did a lot of his own working out, but Coach Tintino went to all of his wrestling matches, and we use it as a club sport. That's what we use it at, and he wrestled all season long. I think he got beat in the semifinals of the regional, but there were a few other kids that said they were interested that could have gone with Coach Tintino in that club, but they kind of dropped out pretty early. So we did have one kid.
So does Princeville not have wrestling probably now?
Princeville does.
I mean, because we co-op with them in swimming, right?
Correct.
So could we not flip that and throw some of our kids there?
I think it's something
To
we'll look
start
at.
out with.
Absolutely.
Where the numbers grow or something like that.
Right.
Did they not ever co-op with IBC? I remember hearing something.
For swimming.
For swimming.
For swimming, but not wrestling.
But at least it would be a good way to gauge the numbers. If you got 6 or 7, kids going up there, then you can really figure it out. You can co-op reverse way.
When you do that, do we provide transportation, or what do we do?
Typically, we do not.
Okay.
I know, that's with schools coming our way. I just know that the one swimmer for Princeville and the one swimmer for IBC were on their own last year in transportation. And we did not, with the wrestler this year, provide him transportation.
So when you do the co-op for that, because we do it for swimming, how does that rank on your sheet when you co-op? How does that work?
We'd have to get it okayed with the conference first. And to give you an example, Canton added Lewiston this past year. And that ruffled a few feathers actually in the conference, because Canton is already decent at wrestling. And they kind of use it. Some schools kind of looked at it as a competitive advantage to add wrestlers. But we co-op, so there is a precedent for that, so it is definitely allowable.
So
And
the
how about
co-op's
Brimfield,
host gets the
too?
points?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Brimfield, do they have wrestling?
Brimfield does, yes.
Yeah, so there's a couple options for us, co-op.
Because they're with Elmwood, so they do theirs.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe they got tons of numbers and they wouldn't want to co-op, I don't know.
And I know I've had a
Where
few
the
parents call me that they're interested. Sounds like there's a pretty healthy group
Yes.
at this point that want to move forward.
Right. And the advice that I gave that group, and we've got some more meetings scheduled here early on in August, was let's start looking at a plan of youth numbers and what that would look like. And they've got some ideas to help them find a spot. Because a wrestling area is very difficult. Have to keep it, you've got a lot of big mats and it has to be a certain, you have to keep it very clean. It's not the easiest area to find, and it's tough to share a spot with wrestling, and roll the mats in and out. It's doable, but those are all things that little smaller group is working on. They're very passionate about it though. So.
So I have a question about Dunlap Middle spring activities. Do they not select or nominate an IESA Scholar Attitude Award like Dunlap Middle or Dunlap Valley does?
Yeah, the Lucy Park.
Oh, so there wasn't, okay, it just wasn't on there.
Lucy Park. Lucy Park.
Okay.
Sorry, I interrupted you on wrestling.
No, that's all right.
Next thing.
The other sport that I wanted to make sure was on your radar is lacrosse. We currently have a very strong lacrosse program that is at the club level, but the IHSA this past year did move forward, and it's no longer, well, it is for one more year, what they would classify as an emerging sport, but going into next year, it will be a full or an official IHSA sport, and we have a very high interest level with lacrosse right now. So factoring that into, and it'll be part of my job, and I'm sure it will be Mrs. Beverlin looking at financially and some different things, how that will work and how we'll move them into the athletic program. So
Where do they play? What field do they?
they do everything on the turf.
Okay.
Right now, they're in the spring,
Okay.
so
It would
literally
be-
that turf, just to give you an idea, is PE is on it from 7:15 in the morning till 3:30, and then track is on it. Soccer uses it early, and then as soon as everybody's gone at 5:30, 6 o'clock, lacrosse jumps on it for 2 hours, and so there's no question that the turf is our highest used facility by far and away.
And there's a substantial Dunlap Rec lacrosse organization that's really, the numbers are pretty strong.
And that's
It's
the key.
fastest growing sport in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah,
That's the key, is that lacrosse has got a pipeline started with Dunlap Rec, and they've got numbers. They've got the fourth grade teams, the fifth grade teams, and that bodes well for us here at the high school. Student AV Club, got some new equipment here at the high school. Got a lot of great ideas coming here for the fall to get students participating in a lot of athletic events and get things on our website, get things, highlights, senior profiles, different things like that, but really getting students involved in that process is a huge goal of ours in this coming year. Just a couple of projects to update you on. Gym banners, those were purchased about a month ago, and they're being made right now. I believe it's 19 total banners will be going up in the gym. That is in our handbook on how those are supposed to be designed and what goes on them. Sweet 16 finishes, things like that. Pretty excited about that update. I'm not sure what that material is in the gym right now that hangs up there. I think those are like old velvet, Velcro type material, but we're gonna get rid of that. A Touch Pro, where Mr. Jensen and I are working on digitizing all of our Hall of Fames, Wall of Fames, Athletes of the Year. We're kind of running out of space to put those up on a wall. So a Touch Pro is an interactive television that we're going to find the right spot for, where it will scroll through and house all of our pictures of all of our Hall of Fame teams, all of our Athletes of the Year, but you can also, you know, interact with it. If you want to look up somebody back and who was the Athlete of the Year in 1988, you can look that up. It will also do some athletic announcements and house some of our videos and some different things, and we're kind of excited about that technology. Dugouts, baseball is going, that's probably one of our roughest looking outdoor facilities from an athletic standpoint. So we're working hard on raising some funds to possibly replace those. And then our ticket booths out front. So I know that, I think they were built back in the 80s? Maybe even the late 70s, I'm not sure, but we've got good things going out there on the turf right now. We need to sharpen it up and look at it. But those are just some of the projects we're looking at for the coming year.
So about 5 years ago, there was some talk about middle school soccer. Has that made any movement at all in the state of the moment?
No, through the IESA, I think at that time when you asked, it was an emerging sport. And if I recall the numbers correctly, I want to say the state needs, or the IESA needs 40 schools to say, yes, we're on board with this. And I want to say, I don't think they got even half of that. So there's interest there, but not enough to make it an official IESA sport.
I had a question about middle school intramural tennis. I know some people had brought that up. Tennis is a sport where if you don't pay the dues to the club, you know, you can't really develop the skills. And I think it would be I think there's a lot of interest in tennis. We see it in the clinics, that a lot of people are participating, but then when it comes time for the club, they're not willing to, you know, pay the fees to do that. Is there any talk of intramural tennis at the middle school?
That was something that was kind of brought up a couple months ago. And we haven't had a lot of discussion around it since then, but I do know there's some interest around it. I think part of it is, part of the discussion we'll need to have is scheduling with the high school, how that looks. You know, if it's spring, if it's fall, when do we get, you know, we've got to be able to have a facility to take those kids. But I do know that there's some interest for IM tennis.
And I think that's part of that athletic leadership team. I mean, I think we've talked about that in our meetings a little bit, is to try to look at some of those, some intramurals, you know, the tennis, where you could play maybe against Valley to middle team or a soccer team, just to, you know, on an intramural bit. But that would be something that I think this committee leadership team, Craig Marondrig, that we would look at all those aspects of the opportunities to get more kids involved at the school level. That pipeline type.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
the
it's
farm
a
system that we
great
talked about.
opportunity for growth. Good.
Do we keep track or helping seniors getting the scholarship when they apply for college?
Yes. I don't have those numbers in front of me right now, but we did have, in the spring, we had to have 2 different signing dates because we had so many sign on to the next level. We had, I believe it was 18 signed in spring, but overall that number that signed to a school was I'd say right around 30 that signed on to play at the next level, which is probably the highest it's been in quite some time.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item we have are the coach's handbook, which is available in the packet, and Mr. Kreider and Mrs. Beverlin are here to answer any questions that you may have regarding that coach's handbook.
So this has the old philosophy, right, in it? So is that because the other one hasn't been approved, or?
Let me look here.
That, that should have been, that is read out, I believe.
Oh.
Well, at least in the original copy, it should have a new one.
Yeah, I thought it did.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not. Yeah, it does.
Yes. Dr. Parker actually has her plan on the page in there at the beginning, and ours is right after that.
Oh, okay. So I guess I was reading the wording, but maybe I was looking at a different version.
Any questions regarding that coach's handbook? Anything? Karen, are you okay with that?
I just can't find one I was reading, so maybe it's not in here.
The new one's in there,
Yeah,
so we'll double check it,
Okay.
make sure
Yeah.
it wasn't in the back or something, but
Okay.
yeah, I think it's all in.
And then you changed the thing about the leggings and the sweat so that coaches
It
can
says in
practice.
during
Okay,
competition.
and wear that, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? You sure?
Yeah, it's under B.
Yes, Cheryl, still.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. The next item was a handbook as well, but this was a sponsor's handbook, which was available in your packet as well. If you have any questions, Mrs. Beverly is here. Anybody have any questions regarding the sponsor's handbook?
Hi, this is Cheryl. The one thing that I wanted to ask about both handbooks was the evaluation process for both the coaches and sponsors. That's an annual thing now instead of biannual?
Correct.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, very good. The next thing we have was an intergovernmental agreement for police services that was available in the packet for review. Were there any questions regarding that agreement? And Ms. Beverly, you want to just give us this is standard?
This is just the standard agreement. This is for our contract with Peoria County Sheriff for our school resource officer. It's just the renewal of the contract for 16-17.
So what are we paying? Are we paying the one officer's, right, salary?
That's set by them.
And doesn't it also cover them doing some other, like evaluation of safety and, does it also cover that? Or do they do that?
They
anyway?
just do that, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, we had a snow removal bid that was available for review in your packet for information this month. Mrs. Beverly, can answer any questions regarding that snow removal bid? Yeah, Mrs. Beverly, do you want to tell us anything about it?
It's a pretty basic snow removal bid. We talked about last year going out, doing mowing and snow together, and there were companies that were able to handle both, so we did separate them. It's hard to believe that we have to talk about snow removal when it's, 98 degrees outside. So, but we added a few things in there to help make the measurement side of the snow removal and to develop some agreements between the vendor and the district as how snow is monitored and measured and things like that to avoid any discrepancies and things like that. So we did a little bit. For the most part, it is the same as always, as it always has been.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the bid? All right, the next bid we have was information regarding the wheelchair bus bid document that's included in your packet. It's a specification invitation to bid. And how many bids do you expect to get from that?
I'm guessing we'll get two. There's really only two bus companies that are here. There may be three. There's another one down around St. Louis that may bid on it. It's just not a real common company to have. So
it's supposed to be a snowy year,
Is it?
but El Nino, they said, right?
All right, any other questions on the bids? No? Okay, we're gonna move on, and now we're gonna have we'll answer any questions on Spanish and discuss the logistics involved with changing the course entrance requirement at this time. Mr. Chatterton is here, Mr. Holmes. did
We'll
you
have
wanna
them come
up?
forward so you can hear it better, yeah. And I asked both of them to come tonight based on a conversation we'd had, I guess just a few weeks ago, and I spoke to it, but I know that they could speak to their scheduling and that kind of thing much, much better than I can. And so we did look at, or have looked at several options, and it really just came down to it's bad timing. And I know that this is on the docket for Mrs. Bowman to work on next year, but I wanted to make sure the board understood why it was logistically just I won't call it a nightmare, but it was turning into a huge puzzle and a staffing issue and that kind of thing, and so I'll let you guys explain.
The best way to explain it in regards to, if there's 120 students, that's 4 sections of anything, math, science, language arts. When you get beyond 120, it turns into 5 sections. So that's 5 classes of math in 8th grade, 5 sections of science in 8th grade. And that takes you to 150 many times, not always, based on your power lit and your algebra can bring you down, which we're at right now. At Dunlap Valley, we're 140 students. So if you went to more than 1 section of Spanish and you went 2 sections of Spanish, Spanish makes explore work. Exploratory, we have 4 sections. And in Spanish, we have 1. That's your 5. That matches the math, that matches the science, that matches the English, and so on. So what it does is, if you go to 2 sections of Spanish, that brings your exploratory numbers down, because it's either Spanish or it's explore. So if you go to 2 sections and say, for easy math, go to 50, that's 25 in Spanish in 1 section, 25 in the other. On paper, it looks good because you have 2 sections of Spanish. It looks good in Explore because you brought those numbers down, like 21, 22. Well, when it comes time to offer those 4 Explore sections, at Valley we have 2 6th-hour and we have 2 8th-hour. When you have those 2 sections of low numbers in Explore, 6th hour, that's our 8th grade team period. So only one.
What's that mean? 8th grade what team?
Team period where all the teachers meet on team.
Okay.
And we'll have 1 section of content, that's U.S. history. Right now it's at 30. You take your 2 sections that are low and Explore, 22 and 22, that throws 75 kids into PE class. 1 section PE class. You go into 8th hour, our 3rd and 4th section of Explore, numbers are low, 22. There's still 140 8th graders in 8th grade that need an 8th-hour class. So there's 3 sections available in 8th hour, a math class and a science class. The other is power lit. Well, that's predetermined because they met criteria to get in. So now your science and your math class during 8th hour are 41 and 39. So with 5 sections, with 100, between 120 and 150, that's how it works in regards to the numbers. It's a balance. And if you tip it one way a little bit, you run into some large numbers and we can't go above 30. Obviously 39 in a math class is unheard of and not.
So there's no way to solve it in the future either?
There is, and so
The easiest way to explain it is we staff for 2 sections, 1 section in his case, and for the other exploratory. So we have a facts teacher, an art teacher, a computers teacher, and a world language teacher. That's what we've staffed for, and we have them prepared to handle the load of students that we have in exploratory, and we haven't staffed accordingly to add another Spanish. I mean, his numbers are a lot tighter than ours just because their size and their staffing is tighter. Could we at Dunlap Middle School add another section? Yeah, we could. There would be a tremendous discrepancy in the courses, like the Spanish enrollment versus those Explore classes. But we could. He couldn't because he's small.
It would affect the math and other classes?
And it affects all the classes, but we have there's 8 sections of math for us, and there's only 5 sections for him. So we have more space to disperse the students over the course of the day, but the staffing's been aligned for the Explore courses and not the Spanish. And to go out and find a part-time Spanish teacher in July, I just think of how hard we work to get a full-time Spanish teacher in the spring of the year compared to going out in late July trying to find a part-time Spanish. It just, the timing wouldn't work.
And just to be clear too, it's beyond just the staffing, because if we had to, we'll find a Spanish teacher if we absolutely have to. But it's, our other concern is making a knee-jerk reaction. If we add 30 more kids at each school, then next year, when they get ready to look at the Explore program and look at the Spanish requirements, you changed it from one way for this year, one way for next year, and then all of a sudden you have a committee that's been charged with looking at the entire Explore program, looking at the Spanish program, and so we've got to give them some time here to solve this and to solve this in the right way.
And the one thing I want to reiterate to that point, when you have low sections, I mean, and 140 is what we're right now, so I'll use that number 140. Whenever you have a low section, there's still 140 kids that need to go somewhere during that one period. And if you have 21 students in a class, let's say Spanish, which is a pre-AP class, what that does is that brings your numbers high in the other classes. That's your gen math, that's your regular science. So your tier 2 kids, your tier 3 kids, your Title 1 kids, your struggling students, kids on behavior plans. Now they're in classes of 30, but your Spanish class, your high achieving kids are at 20 and 21. So there's also a moral and an ethical and a leadership point that we got to take to make sure those kids that do struggle, are we doing them a disservice, putting them in a class of 30, but our 4.0s, they're in algebra 17 kids. They're in Spanish 21 kids. And when you have 4 sections, 2 algebra and 2 Spanish, those 18 kids go to first hour, the second hour together, the third hour together, the fourth hour together, because there's only power lit, there's only algebra, there's only Spanish, there's only 3 sections of PE, you got study hall, you got SLC. Our best learning takes place when kids help kids, and when kids are teaching kids, and kids are engaged with kids. And you separate those classes tremendously when you do that. So
That's gonna be the same next year too, right? If we would go to a thing where we had more Spanish, that same problem would exist.
It's based on section, like he's got 8. So we have 5.
So it'd be different if Dunlap.
He has more leverage and flexibility because there's other avenues. It's closer to a high school schedule than what we have because we're at 140. It's just the makeup of 2 buildings. It's just not a better or a worse schedule. It's just he's got
More students.
190 students or 200, whatever. We have 140.
So the intent when Spanish was started in the elementary school was to streamline it all the way up to high school. So you're telling me that the only way to make this work is to stop the Explore program?
No, I don't think we're saying that at all. And
So there's
no.
another way to do it?
I think that we have to give this back to the committee and give them a chance to work through this, and I mean,
But the whole thing though was to have all 8th graders take Spanish, and they're saying it's either Spanish.
but I think that before they can make that statement 100%, I think we need to turn it over to Mrs. Bowman, and these guys will be on the committee and look at our options. I'm not saying we don't want all 8th graders to take Spanish. I mean, I'm not saying that at all, but I think we need to look through the logistics of what that actual Explore program will look like, because that is the intent.
And I wasn't at those meetings, but I'm not certain what the intent was to have all 8th graders in pre-AP Spanish 1 for high school credit.
But
The
I-
intent back
right.
then was not even to have pre-AP Spanish, so do you know who implemented the pre-AP Spanish in 8th grade?
When I came in 2006, we had 2 sections of high school credit. I think it's called honors at that point, Spanish. We were a large middle school. In 2008, we split Dunlap Valley, Dunlap Middle. At that point, remember the first 3-4 years, Dunlap Valley was larger than Dunlap Middle. Then we redistricted. And we lost about 100 students, and they gained that 100. So they incorporated 2 sections. They were much larger than we were, and we took in 1. And that intent was to provide those students with 4.0s, 3.95s, that chance to be able to get a head start on a world language. world language, Spanish in particular, has been the middle school before I got there. So in '06, when I did come in, that's when there were 2 sections of Spanish for high school credit that counted towards the GPA. And that's something we have to be careful of too, because, go ahead.
My 2 questions were, number 1, how was it changed to pre-AP Spanish? Because back in 2013, it was decided we would not make that switch until we could better select those students, because based on GPA, all teachers grade differently. You have students who are more capable, who need more rigor, and if we talk about individualized instruction, I don't know when that maybe come in about 10 years ago, and I would assume that it would be, as a principal, you would want to keep your high ability learners engaged so that they could actually take those classes. So knowing that you had this flaw in the GPA, and we've known that for a long time, at what point does that get fixed? So you can appropriately put students who actually, it's not earned, but
Are you
there's
talking
kids
about,
who need that differentiation to be, engaged, because they're just smart
I
kids.
don't
To
understand the
answer
question, is it pre-AP versus honors, or what's the question?
It was originally honors,
Okay.
and then last year,
They,
none of us knew, but it was switched to, I don't even know if you knew, but we all got letters saying that it was switched
To pre-AP.
That
to
was-
pre-AP, which was not supposed to happen until we could accurately select students.
that's predicated by the high school and their course offerings, and I don't know this for certain. The high school could answer it, but I believe that they changed the graduation or valedictorian selection to a different rubric, and at which time that a name change was necessitated in that high school course offering, and that just is pushed down to us. So if the high school algebra says that all the students need this type of calculator, that's just what we adopt, here you go. If the high school says that this is what the course says on their transcripts and then the course offerings, that's what we do. So I believe we weren't a part of that conversation, nor do we necessarily need to be, because it's a high school course that we're offering.
But you found out after the fact? So I guess my question is, if you.
We had to send a letter out. We had to send a letter out
Yep.
after we realized that there was a name change, and I know that the kids were in the class. We had started school. I do remember that.
But knowing that there was a change then, and knowing that the selection process was flawed,
I don't know if
all the
selection process changed for the high school though, and a name change is predicated by the high school. So I think you're talking about 2 separate things. Whether it's offered at the 8th grade level, and being flawed, that's a conversation that Dr. Parker was talking about, needs to go to a committee and be a larger discussion. Whether it was a name change in the actual course offering, that's predicated by the high school and what their courses are and what they print on their transcript, because it's not
It's kind of
necessarily ours.
So, just
No,
want
I
to jump,
agree.
so guys, so we're at where we're at today, where would you, I guess I'm trying to figure out, where do we want to head in the future with this planning? What are we looking to do?
well, it's hard, because you want all kids to have opportunities.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, from the planning side of things, we already know that we can't change it in this year, right? So
Right.
where do we want to go from here? And I guess I'm just trying to get an idea from where your direction is and where you guys are thinking.
It
Where
would be nice for Heather to be here.
kind of
'cause
pull
I
this
certainly
together a
think
little
we're
bit to
not
say,
gonna speak for her.
we'd like to do, look at, the team's gonna look at A, B, and C or whatever, I don't know, but.
I don't think they're that point yet. I think
Well-
they're just getting formed. So I would guess that the committee or Heather will have a discussion with the board.
But I mean, you just said just a little while ago that, yeah, we'd like to get it all the way through 8th grade.
That's a possibility.
But I mean, that's part of it, maybe an A, B, whatever the scenarios are, but I guess I'm trying to get at, that's what this leadership team would try to do with
Based,
input from others, I guess.
It would be an Explorer committee, just like any other.
They had a
committee.
preliminary meeting, we had a preliminary meeting in, was it May? The first PLC in May, maybe the last one in April, that we met with all the Explore teachers. Mrs. Bowman came, sat down with them and said, we need to look at our Explore offerings at the middle school level. This would be a major initiative for next year, and invite you all to be a part of it, because when we did it the previous time, I think in '09, was it 2010, we changed it to where we put more, the STEM course in it, we put world language in it, we changed some things around, and we didn't have everyone's voice and input that was part of the Explorer. So that was her #1 move, was to make sure that everybody knew that this was what we're looking at next year, and that you're all included in this. And she said, start collecting your ideas and be ready to come to work in August as far as putting them on the table and working through them. So the first step's been laid with the Explore teachers and what they want to do and what they want to see, and being inclusive of all of them. And that's as far as it's gone.
But if the best thing for the kids is maybe to get rid of one of the Explore classes, then isn't it hard to have those people on the team?
Well,
It's a very,
but
it's a very.
you don't want to axe them without them having a voice at the
No, I
table
know,
at the
but
same
I mean-
time. So it's difficult, but that was a major concern the first time around, is that we didn't hear the benefits of all the Explorer offerings when the decisions were made, and we need to at least hear the benefits in what each one of the programs offers, and then look at how we want to have the students experience those exploratory offerings. Another topic that's been on the radar, Jason and I have been a part of, is the French aspect of it. I mean, we offer French at the high school through the AP, and we're not giving those students necessarily a leg up in the 8th grade level. So they have to find other means to be able to reach their goals, if their goals to be successful in the French AP course. So that's got to be a part of the conversation as well.
So from a high level, what we have talked about the last 4 years, or 5, since I've been on the board, was that the GPA just never got addressed. And the reason that was a flaw was because all teachers grade differently. They're not the same. And you have kids who are taking advanced courses, and that's not factored in. So those kids with the high ability learners are not getting the advantage of taking the classes that they can handle. Not that the other kids can't handle it, but it's unfair when those kids are working extra more hard. They have more homework. They're taking honors classes in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And for them to get into 8th grade, taking these honors classes and not given the credit and not getting into Spanish is where it's very frustrating. And I've been there as a parent myself.
And that needs to be looked at as well.
And I think
And
that's
that
a
should have been
whole
looked at a
other
long
conversation,
time
right?
ago.
Because that's grade weighting overall,
Right.
right? This is not just this
Yeah,
stuff.
so
Right.
and Heather, I think we talked about in the middle school. I don't know what she's talked to you, because it's been a really busy year, but, so, and then I wanted to mention, you asked one more question, like, had an answer, and I can't think of what it.
Well, while you're
And I
thinking,
can
so the
say-
timeline for this, we have it?
This is one of Heather's goals for 16-17,
So
so
it would
she'll
be
meet in August.
changed for the next
17-18
year.
school year.
Okay.
And yes, that was a choice. So we did talk about offering, at that time, things have changed, but we did at the 8th grade level talk about offering Spanish and French, because it is at the high school.
And I'm sure that will probably be discussed,
Part
I
of the
guess,
conversation
yeah,
with the committee.
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a good conversation. I appreciate you all coming and explaining it, and what you said with the numbers is very helpful. Because it seems like, you know, when we have our conversations, it's easy, right? You just add an extra one, oh, no big deal, just get a teacher and add an extra one. But to understand that it could negatively affect, you know, a large number of students to offer these offerings for other students, I mean, that's very important. That's something we have to keep in the forefront and we have to stay focused on, because our goal is to make sure that we're doing the best thing for all of our students.
Equitable.
And so yeah.
I gotta say, the numbers were, as he was going through, helpful. I think I'm pretty good with numbers, but when he's going through it,
I know,
Come on, Brian.
yeah, that, you need the flow
I
chart.
can slow down.
who's on first? Eh?
So, did you say, Dr. Parker, that there's a way for kids to take this class at ICC?
They can take it, well, I don't know about ICC, you can take it to the virtual high school.
Virtual high school.
Yep.
And so, I wonder, I didn't really know that existed, so I wonder if other parents do. Maybe that could be something that could be
They will need to
With-
work with Mrs. Bowman because it's not pre-AP. And so it's just a Spanish
And-
class.
It has to be approved by the high school administration for high school
So
credit.
if
I'm not
they,
concerned
say
with
they
that part.
took
but
that.
I've already talked to Mrs. Bowman about that part, but
Okay.
yeah.
Say they took it at the 8th grade, this virtual high school,
Mhm.
then could they go to the honors Spanish in
Those are
freshman?
discussions we have to have with Heather when she comes back in August.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. So I think
So at any time, though, you could have taken it upon yourself to look at that GPA versus something else with the honors classes and getting the right kids in those courses?
I don't think we necessarily have the wrong kids in the courses if you look at their performance in the class.
Well, when you selected on the GPA, knowing that all teachers grade differently, they're great on what they know. There are other tests out there that grade, that give you a score on how well you learn, those COGAT scores.
I think that of our math, our advanced math, our power lit, and our Spanish, We have less questions, less concern from the Spanish end than the math and the reading. We have more parent complaints, more what's going on, what's this mean with the Z-score, the weights, and the accumulations and the norms. I would be the first to agree, having GPA as at determining a class is not the best way. I think we would all agree with that. But to say it's not identifying the right kids, those kids do achieve at a high level and do very well. And teachers do grade differently. But a 4.0 in 6th grade and 7th grade is a pretty strong signal that a student's very strong academically.
So again, like we discussed last time, we have a bigger pool of students, so no matter which kids you.
There's always a cut line, whether it be a Z-score in math or a GPA in Spanish.
I have a strong opinion on this. I really like, please consider this coming next year. As long as kids and parents want to then sign up, I would like to give them a chance to take those 2 classes.
Which ones?
Just open
Algebra-
enrollment, as long as they
algebra
understand the
and,
expectations.
Spanish. So why we need to having a selection process, just give them a chance if they, as long as they want to take it.
And
Just be in mind, if you open it that way,
Yeah.
and it comes back with, let's say 93. Okay, well, that's 31, 31, and 31. Your other classes, you know, you go 4 sections there. All of a sudden now, you've got 30 in a math class, 35 in a science class. That's more staffing. When you open enrollment that way, and you can't somewhat have a handle on where those kids go, your staffing and your budgeting becomes very, very difficult.
And then also, wouldn't that also have, so the lower performing students are stacked
They're in
in the
classes of
classes
30.
of, they're gonna be all together in the classes of social studies, computers, so that all the high performing kids or the kids whose parents want them to be in those classes are gonna end up being in all the same classes together.
Bingo.
But that's not necessarily the case though for us.
Not for you, I'm sorry, just for
wanted to
DBMS.
clarify, because
I
So
did-
we have
we
more
kind of
sections.
tweak this a little, so it sounds like there's 2 items that maybe look algebra and Spanish.
And those are both on her list, yes,
To
yep.
clarify,
16, 17.
algebra is open
Yep,
enrollment.
and explore
Proposal
program,
plan.
exactly,
And most schools?
yep,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
algebra's open enrollment, so mainly Spanish is the.
Upon recommendation, but they can still, just like the high school, you know, that they, even though they understand this is the recommendation, we're not encouraged, you can still take it. That is the case for algebra. That changed
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Back
We're on our
when we
3rd.
started, let's just go back to 07, 08 is when we split the schools.
Yes.
You added 1 additional course since then in Spanish? You have 1 or 2?
And
one.
You have 1.
Yes.
And we added the second one in
So
the
we are
training.
actually offering Spanish to a percentage of less students than we have been since the beginning of it, because we've grown so much, but still can only take
Well,
Or did the numbers?
31.
you're roughly talking 90 kids out of roughly 300 versus back then we'd have 60 kids out of, we had probably had 100, well, we were both at about 130, right? About 260. So I'd say it's still pretty equitable.
Is that true, Brian? You got the math all now?
Well, couldn't tell, was it 60 and 120 kids?
60 out of,
120, that's
no,
that's
260 total.
total between the 2 schools.
Yeah,
And what
because
was
we
the
each,
other?
I think, had roughly 130, maybe, let's say 140, 130, probably closer to 130.
And you had 60 kids.
Yeah,
And then now you have,
roughly, a little over 300, let's say 325.
how many kids?
90, it's available, 3 sections.
And again, it's not so much the number, but what it does come into, like, at Valley, we have 26
Definitely
4.0s.
less.
They're all, whereas he can go lower. So, I mean, if you have a 3.95 at Valley, you're not in. If you have a 3.9 at middle school, you're in.
So it's different measures?
Just because of the numbers in the sections.
Yeah, so there's definitely some work to be done, right?
And that's-
Committee's gonna look
exactly.
at it, Heather's gonna take a look at it, she's gonna work, and we'll try to make sure it's equitable. and
Just
so that
curious,
both buildings
how many,
too.
how many kids are we really turning away? That's a real big issue. You have some?
With I wouldn't say, there's no way to know the real number because we only offer it going down, so the only way to know that is the parents that like are in tune and understand that Spanish is
Right.
available and they ask, where's my child at, is my child getting in? Otherwise, you don't know if a parent is unaware that their child is close or that it's offered, so there's no real
Well,
way.
you don't have do you have a lot of parents calling you now, trying to,
Yeah, I mean, there's always
how
a
many kids
handful.
typically right now, 10?
This
A
year, I
year?
didn't have any.
No, I'd say 3 to 5.
And just to, last year, I had a phone conference call with Tom Welsh and Amy Smith, and they wanted to grow the program. That was the purpose, their purpose for changing it to pre-AP, because they wanted to offer the 5th-year AP, right? And so that, they wanted to grow that program to get all those kids up there so they could take that AP class as a senior. That's what the high school administration told me. So if you want to grow that program, we're going to have to, the only way to grow the program is to grow the program, so got some work to do.
How many drop off though in senior year? Do we know?
That was a good question. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
I mean, I think
I could look it up, but I don't know how many.
a lot.
I think it's a lot too.
But you also, I mean, there's no way of knowing what their other opportunities, what their interests are. It's giving them the foundation, the opportunity
Yeah.
for it necessarily, rather than prescribing that they have to follow this path for 4 years of high school.
So your recommendation going forward is to not add the additional?
Not at this point, because of the impact with the Explore program.
But the team's gonna look at it, the committee, Heather's
Exactly.
gonna work with them, and next year we'll have something that probably looks different with 2017, 18. Right?
And then sounds like you still are gonna be looking for a long-term plan as well as a
Absolutely.
short-term. To try to get maybe what Paul said on trying to follow through 8th grade.
But that was the intent of 1st grade, 2nd grade, and then we kind of slowed it down when we had the budget crunch, but to carry
Yeah, I'm
it through
saying,
to the high school.
but maybe to relook at whatever that plan was back then. I wasn't here, but I'm trying to see.
I'm not saying that isn't, I mean, that's all part of that committee.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much, thank you both.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, well, that's the last item we have for the information discussion items, so this will conclude that portion of the meeting, and we'll move into the consent agenda. And we have some items here listed. Are there any clarifications or discussion items regarding the consent agenda? Most of the contracts, renewals? Anyone?
And the driver's education fee, we're just asking for that amount, but it doesn't mean we're gonna actually approve that.
Right, we're asking for the opportunity to
Okay.
be able to move it to up to 250. If we
And I guess someone could say no from whoever we send it to, right? The state, could they say no?
They could say no, they typically won't, but, yeah. So we're just asking for permission to be able to do it. What it does is it allows us to calculate what we can charge for driver's ed in a different way than what we currently can. And then the board can decide at that point whether to raise it or not raise it. But without the waiver, we can't even talk.
And the
So
wording
that's-
on that had to be that way, we had to say that less kids are taking it. I mean, where did you get the idea for how it was worded, the request, the waiver?
As
Request.
far as.
Trying to find it, I don't know what page it's on.
Well, she's looking, did you get any pushback from the driver's ed department this year?
Not this time, okay. Not so far, anyway.
Yeah,
Looking
sorry.
at the action.
The actual language to the state requesting the waiver. Sorry, it's different.
Are you looking at the letters to Weaver and Leach?
Oh, maybe, what page is that on?
I never do it by page.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you go to the,
Quick view,
quick view, or
it's easier.
you
Oh,
can go
there it
right
is,
down
yeah.
to it.
What is it?
It just says,
The letter that was sent to Senator Weaver and,
without an increase, the fewer students will be able to take driver's ed at one time. Therefore, students will not be able to take driver's ed in a time to get their license when they turn 16. Does that happen a lot?
What happens is you run out of the ability to pay the staff, because you don't have enough revenue coming in to pay the staff to do all of the overloads and everything that it's
Okay.
taking to get everybody through, because they changed the permit period to 9 months, so now everybody has to take it earlier. So in order to get kids through and get them done by the time they're 16, so that they can get their license the day they turn 16, like everybody wants,
regarding the consent agenda? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented for the July 20th, 2016 Board of Education meeting.
A second.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Teresa. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Flu,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Posthauser,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin.
Aye.
All right, motion carried, thank you. We'll now move into the action item segment of the meeting. And the bill list and treasurer report were included in your board packet for review. And Mrs. Beverly is here to answer any questions you may have regarding that. Any questions? Anything out of the ordinary?
I do have, well, not anything, just a couple things. It was June 30th, so this is there's a July board report, which is representing what the bills are for July. Then the year-end report is in there, which represents how everything came out for FY16. And that's in the written report. We received just around 100% in all of our revenue, a little over in some areas, depending on what the state paid or the percentage taxes. If it was just straight taxes, we were at about 98%, 97%. That's what actually came in from the property taxes. Like IMRF, that's all that we get money for. So 97% is what we got for all of our taxes. And so revenue was right where we wanted it to be. Our expenditures were also right where we wanted them to be. My goal is to budget, to finish between 90 to 95% of what the budget is. It leaves a little bit of cushion if there's any emergencies, and we were right there with all of our operating funds. So I was very happy to see the decisions that were made and the changes in the processes that we have in place are working to make sure that we maintain the financial stability. We were at 93.9% in the ed fund. So that's just a little over 6%. So in all of that money that wasn't spent will roll into reserves, which allows us to be able to be proactive or react if something changes with property taxes or state funding or anything like that. So that's all part of trying to get that.
And roughly,
fund
how much
balance
is
built.
that?
Pardon?
How much is that went into reserves roughly?
It was about 2.2 million.
Nicely done.
On the bills, which is a different place, but on the bills, there's 3 bill lists this month. So that you see that, you'll see 3 going forward. We used to have 1, and because we paid everything by check. Then we moved to 2 because we were able to do electronic fund transfers and still checks. Companies have to be willing to take a credit card without charging us a fee for us to use the electronic fund. And then the third one that you see this month it was a test for a reimbursement that we needed to give to an employee, that we're doing direct deposit to employees' bank accounts for employee reimbursements now rather than cutting checks. So it's just all part of the moving it toward. My goal is to never buy another check. I don't know if I'm going to succeed, but that's my goal.
And one question I had just for you, Karen, there were a couple salary differences with the social workers and vocational supplies.
The difference is that they were,
And the
one was
psychologist.
over and one was under. It really came down to staff turnover, when the staff changes and things like that, as far as somebody having less or more experience, whatever.
Okay. And just from what you had budgeted based on
Yes.
that, okay. Alrighty, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve payment of the bills.
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $3,193,550.64 as presented.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Karen, thank you, Brian. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Posthauser,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Flu,
Aye.
All right, motion carried, thank you. The district investment report is available in your packet for review, and Mr. Nguyen is with us this evening, in case there's any questions in regards to that. Mr. Nguyen, do you have any inspirational news for us?
world is in chaos, what's gonna happen?
Well, Howard?
No, I said the world is in chaos, what is gonna happen?
It's not necessarily. You are correct that this is a frustrating market and everyone hates it because of lack of visibility. At the same time, leading economic indicators are moving higher, which means there's no recession in the near term. Wages are moving higher for workers in quite some time. Unemployment is low in the U.S. Central banks have put forth a lot of stimulus, and developing markets, emerging markets are a little more stable than they were previously, and they're able to do some easing policies in that regard. So in that sense, there's a lot of positive things out there, but it's still fragile in the sense that we're still kind of in this unwinding phase from the debt bubble, and until economies can be self-sustaining on their own without so much stimulus, i.e. interest rates down zero or printing and so forth, I guess we'll always kind of be in this muddling process. But in one aspect, it's challenging because you listen to economists and they're talking about how the United States is booming in so many parts. But given unfortunately our location, both in the state of Illinois with some of its budget woes, and then the influence of Caterpillar and the commodity market being somewhat in a depressed state, we're not feeling it, and so I think our perception is hampered a little bit because of that. But if you're in North Carolina, where people are moving there a lot, and you're in Texas, or you're in even places in New York and the New England area and West, and there's their economies are seeing, Seattle, stuff like that, they're doing real well. So it's kind of that mixed bag, if you will. But either way, I mean, some sectors will do well with a certain president being elected, some sectors will not do well with certain sectors with certain presidents. And it's just kind of so there's no market. So all in all, I think things are good, but to still have that fragile state to the economy. So anyway, maybe one other thought is that there's a lot of big moves coming 3 or 4 years from now, when the millennial generation starts to get into higher spending periods. Over the next 15 to 20 years, 300 million people are going to move in the middle class when you're talking India, China, and other areas. I mean, there's a lot of real bullish trends out there that just we're just not there yet, but close. So a lot of rainbows out there in some ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else? Okay, well, that concludes the action item segment of the meeting, and the board will now move into closed session. Can I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purpose as stated in the Open Meetings Act. 1, the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, and 2, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed.
All right, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Paul. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Peasterham.
Aye.
Posthauser.
Sure.
Park.
Aye.
Reed. Zawin.
Aye.
Flu.
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Karen says-
I know she can't.
Oh, what's that? All right, we don't have two more. She was missing.
She went to the restroom, she'll be back.
Oh, did she? Okay. All right. If you guys want to go ahead, we're in session now. We just have some action items here.
Oh.
Are we recording yet?
The door's locked.
Do you need a next?
To get it recorded. Did you stop the recording?
Oh, no.
Oh, we're still recording.
You guys go ahead. I'll go take care of that.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I ask for a motion to approve the Human Resources Consent Agenda for 2016-17.
I move to approve the Human Resources Consent Agenda for 2016-2017 as presented.
All right. Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Paul. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Park,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Flu, Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Posthauser,
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Oh, yeah, did we call Cheryl back yet? I think Lisa's gonna call her back, so when she gets here, she'll call her back. All right, we'll ask for a motion to approve the closed session minutes.
I move to approve the closed session minutes of the regular board meeting of June 15th, 2016 by Heather, and special board meeting of July 7th, 2016.
Second.
All right, thank you, Beth, and thank you, Paul. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Reed,
Aye.
Zawin,
Aye.
Flu, Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Posthauser,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
All right. Okay, we're into other now. We'll review any requested agenda items for future board meetings. Are there any items that anyone wants to address?
The only thing is, if we have a board retreat coming up, if we have nothing to discuss or we want, then do we need to have that board retreat?
Say that again, I'm
We
sorry.
can't go into a board retreat and have no topic, so if there's nothing.
I think we have a lot of future
Oh,
agenda
yeah.
items.
Well, no,
She,
topic.
well, hers is board retreat. Okay, I guess, and we'll wait for Cheryl to get on here real quick, but I guess for that, we had our initial
leave a message and
board retreat. We said that we wanted to do this again, and it's more of a board, I see it more as board governance, and I think that that's a never-ending saga. As far as how we handle things and things, how are things gonna go, how are things going, it's a self-evaluation.
So we're paying money, so I just wanna make sure that she's got, like, she's got something together that she's gonna educate us.
Do we have to pay
We don't
money?
just talk.
Yes, you do. IASB
Have school board
requires us to
association.
pay money, and this is the only way we can really have a board self-evaluation in closed session is to have a facilitator from IASB.
It is the only way.
It's,
Yep.
so that
But
we have
didn't
to-
that, 2 board retreats ago when we went to, was it?
Mount Holly, the
Mount
first
Holly?
one, yeah.
Did we not have a facilitator?
We didn't go into closed session.
Well, she was there with us. No, you're right. No, that was just
So
us.
couldn't we just have one that's open
No one,
session?
well, we did have a few people show up. Remember we had,
Yeah, we had DEA people.
Yeah, a few people showed
But I
up
mean,
for that.
what's the problem with having them show up?
No, I don't think there is a problem. It just allows us to have, well, if
That's the
there,
only
if
one we
there's
had,
some
isn't it?
sensitive, if
The
there's
one
some
on Holly?
sensitive subjects. No, we had one with Rita. Remember she came in?
She came into the district office.
District office, did board
Oh,
self-evaluation.
yes.
And
But
we
was
also
that
get credit
strategic
for it as
planning?
well.
I think it's a good practice for the board to go into closed session and have some dialogue just about how it's going, board relationship, board superintendent relationship. I just think there's a lot of benefit from having that led by the school board association.
And then it can be closed session. Then it
Right.
can be a more, I guess.
And how much is it?
I don't know, we budget for it, it's in the budget.
But I'd kind of agree with Beth, is try to have, what is it, what are we gonna, what are the
Right.
topics, or, is it,
Lisa and
well,
myself.
Lisa
have-
just says it, relationships, or
Right,
board,
we met
whatever.
with Rita once already.
Hey Cheryl, are you there?
Then this upcoming retreat.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I
And
thought
to
you were
talk about,
calling me, so I'm
things
hoping
that
you
should be
missed
addressed.
Well, I did, it went into voicemail, but I called you a little late, so we're just talking about the board retreat and whether it's a good idea to have one or not.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's all right, it's my fault.
Yeah, no, yeah, sorry.
So Cheryl, just to bring you up to speed, Beth was asking if there was an agenda. I've met with Lisa and myself, have had a conversation with Rita Owens, who is our IASB rep, about some potential topics, some things that she feels are important to boards going forward. And we've also shared some information with her as far as making our board better. And so those are some of the things that will be discussed. We also could take things from the board members too. If there's something that you see that could be handled better or handled differently, this would be an opportunity for us to, in closed session, be able to kind of hash that out.
Is there a way we could start, and I don't know if there was a cost to it, at the end of every meeting, we had a kind of like a board evaluation? You know, how did it go? Addressed a bunch of questions, and if there were concerns, that it was, addressed immediately through that. I don't know if that's something that we would want.
Would
If
we
there's
be-
no reason for it, then no, but if someone would want something like that. No?
I'm sorry, that's not on that
Okay,
topic,
forget
so
I
I'll
even
wait.
said it. No, I'm gonna take it as a no.
Well, I'm fine with whatever, I mean, as
I don't
far as
care.
agenda items, I think any one of us can throw them on, whatever you want. I'm fine. I
Well,
mean,
it was a list, it was a survey that you received after every meeting, was everyone, questions?
I know it should, yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, I remember it. We used to have to fill them
It was
out.
different board
and-
members,
But at
right?
some point, people stopped filling them out, and then we don't have
Oh,
three board
well,
members
they got
filling them
mean.
out.
Yeah, that's true.
And then,
They
yeah,
got
people put
personal, they started
nasty things that they
attacking.
wouldn't say in public.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you're right.
So then we started addressing
So then
them
they
at
stopped
the
doing
end
it.
of every board
Cause more
meeting,
problems,
so
that's all.
Yeah.
And the board president would get those?
Well, I was just thinking it might be interesting to talk about priorities, you know, the future agenda items, to see if any of the priorities changed. Can we talk about that at the board retreat? You know, kind of what the priorities are for the board for new items going forward to look at, you know, because we have so many items.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Is that something that
And
you
that
could
is
talk
How
about?
how about if we review accomplishments or what we've accomplished first? Some of those, and then where we going.
And
Here's
then
what we've
where's
done.
next, kind of,
Here's
you know.
where we're headed, what we're doing. I mean, because I'd like to review things that we've accomplished a little bit, to say, yeah, we put this one to bed, put this one to bed, whatever. I think it'd be kind of nice to see, and then where we're going, and what's our priority list.
So,
Yeah, I
priorities
think
and
that's healthy to do every
accomplishments.
year.
Yeah, those are clearly things that we could put on there. And, we were actually, talking about having a process too, to your point of priorities. When we prioritize the administration's time,
That's- yeah, that's what I
how do you, each of us may want something different, right? They have goals and indicators that they have to complete. So we don't want any one person taking them off task when this is as a unit.
And it's kind of been a full year since I've been on, so the president, wouldn't it'd be nice after that meeting to have you done another letter to the
Yeah.
community? Have you done another one?
Yeah, it's coming out.
Splinters will be out 1st of August.
And
or
you
something.
include all those accomplishments and stuff?
No, I didn't go into any depth. I don't
It would
have
be
it
nice to
there.
have you do
But I think
what we've
the Lisa's
accomplished.
section has.
Yeah.
Oh, you did it in yours.
Yeah, it has more than numbers.
Like the
and,
strategic
you know,
planning and-
I'm just saying the things you
Yeah.
accomplished as a board, it'd be kind of nice to some of the accomplishments.
Yeah, actually, that is a good idea.
Yeah, so mine is more general, and I think we touched on the strategic plan, which is one of our big things that we've accomplished, but
Yeah.
not like, a whole lot of individuals.
I
But
mean,
it's not to say
hitting the
that we
reserve
shouldn't-
number, putting money away,
And that is.
budget
yes.
number, I mean, there's,
Those are, and there's all different sections in the splinters, so it's like we talked about,
Right.
it's not just Dawn, I think you talked about kind of a big picture.
Yeah, it's just a paragraph. I mean,
Lisa has her, and then mine has the finance side, where we're at with the finance.
We got finance, we got the whole district, we got curriculum, every section is hit on differently. But to your point, I mean, it's not to say we couldn't post something on the website that said, board, and we could put that in that context.
from you, just to kind of give you an idea of the board, the accomplishments we've done, I don't know. And we can talk about it at the meeting.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to-
When are we thinking to have this?
Board retreat?
It's
is
August 31st, I think.
August
So
31st.
we have a month and a half.
What does that fall on? What day is that? Is that Tuesday?
I think it's,
That's not the day after Labor Day.
Wednesday. All right, any other,
So
while we're
2
looking,
days
any
after.
other?
I just had a
Labor
couple
Day
questions.
weekend.
I noticed that
I thought this
was September.
Oh, yeah.
every time, it
Right.
seems like quite often when
You're so
Morton
polite
has a
when you
board
say that.
meeting,
You should say-
there's a summary of every, kind of the highlights of their, and I'm wondering how they get that in the paper.
Have to be there.
They have a reporter that goes to their meeting.
And so we just don't have a reporter?
What I'm thinking,
Isn't that weird?
Well,
We
they
used
don't do
to.
it here either, do they?
Yeah, Steve Stein is probably who does that.
Huh. It just seems bizarre that they always get the coverage and we don't. I was just wondering if they send a release or something.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I know Steve covers or used to cover the
I just
meetings
think in
quite a
terms
bit,
of
yeah.
communication with the district, that's a way that, we could improve. If they're doing something different, maybe they're just lucky and their reporter shows up, I don't know. And then, secondly, I did have a constituent issue, and I know the protocol is that the person has to call in to the district, but I feel a little bit bad, making the person call in. And so, is it ever allowed that, a board member can bring a concern to the staff and then we ask them to call that constituent, that parent, or that, is that a change in a chain of command, or is that allowed? As a state legislator and as city council people, you don't make the constituent call another time. It's just kind of not good customer service. So, but I know our practice has been that we make that person call the staff. So why,
Well, but
why is it?
I don't know, in a couple of my situations I've had where they've said something to me and then I would shoot an email to like Heather or Karen or Lisa and say, hey, here's the issue, whatever, can you please contact them? And then I just drop it from there.
Right, but
Right?
in my
And you
instance, I
usually
got
follow
back,
up, or you-
so.
Yeah, but I don't
Recently-
agree with what we've done in the past. I mean, I know we've done that a couple times. I'm not saying you, I just say there were a couple times where, yeah, you would email and we did call them, but if that's the case, and I've got 7 people that are saying, can you call this person or that person, you know, we have to have a protocol and a chain of command, and I just think we're trying to streamline that a little bit, and to be honest with you, you guys give us a lot of questions. You can send us a lot of emails, and for us to now get phone messages, I just think this is probably a really good discussion for August 31st.
Yeah, I think it is, because I just hate making them make that extra, I mean, I feel like it's.
And in that case, when it's, if it's who you were talking about before, it's a teacher, and they can't contact the assistant superintendent, I have a problem with that.
Well, I mean, they already had.
No, they've never talked to me.
They've never talked to me.
Oh, really?
So there's
they did
several
tell me,
steps.
I mean, that's something they told me they had.
But so, I guess I know we'll probably talk about it later, but if somebody called me, what I usually do, or even I see them, I say, send me an email with whatever the issue is, and then I'll usually forward it on, and you're saying you don't necessarily like that. I guess I don't
think
know.
that if somebody has an issue, they should
But then you
contact-
could pass it on to Tom or whatever, but I guess what I'm saying is, I don't necessarily know where I need to go with that info.
I think,
So if they're contacting me and saying, hey, Brian, and then I'll say, hey, shoot me a quick email on whatever, some class thing. And I said, I can forward it on. And then once it goes away from me, then you guys facilitate it, and if it goes down, but you don't want to do that?
If a parent calls me and says, I need to talk to you about this class, the first thing I'm gonna say is, have you talked to the teacher? And if they say yes, then I'm gonna say, have you talked to the principal? And if they say no, then I'm gonna say, you need to call Mr. So-and-so. I don't take the message for them.
See, and I've
But-
been on the other end of that, and I was really ticked off.
Yeah.
I've been the person calling and saying, no, and it was a big issue for me, and the cheerleading thing, and the whole thing. And I got passed down, and then nothing happened.
Well, I think the answer to both, to me.
So I've
personally,
been there
is
where-
the email. You know, not the phone call, not the personal conversation, but to
Yeah.
your point, if you send an email, so if a parent comes to me and say, hey, this happened, that, you know, such and such the other day, and I don't think that was right. Okay, send an email to that person. If they send it to that person, then at least you have a trail.
Right.
Because then they say, hey, well, I did send her email, here it is right here, as opposed to, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
called them,
Yeah,
and they
right,
didn't respond.
right.
I mean, so I think email is first of all. Now, how that goes from there, I get what you're saying, you don't want the person to have to go twice, but, I mean, honestly,
kinda
in
like-
order to have a progression though, you know, for it to start with the superintendent and to be calling somebody, that's a high level, right? It can be looked at as an abuse of power, because I can just go to my neighbor, who's a board member, and she's gonna take me straight to the top, as opposed to saying, you call.
You're not
email.
saying she has to react on it. I'm just punting to her, she can drive it down to who she wants. I'm not saying Lisa's gotta respond, but if I get to either Lisa or Karen and say, I don't wanna vet through who is or who they need to go to. I don't even know sometimes these teachers or principals or wherever. So if I can just get it there and then you guys push it down.
And I think that can happen, because I think if it comes to you, you're gonna send it to the high school or the.
I mean, it's not that many times. I don't know. I've probably had to do it
address
3
just
times
saying,
since I've
got
been
this,
here.
you know, handle it.
Have you ever tried to, you know, and I get a lot of complaints too, but I don't send them to Lisa.
No.
I try to work with them, but I've been here.
You try to work with the actual person?
No, I try to work through it with them, like, this is what I would do, then you know, go.
And that's usually what I do. I do with parents. I've gotten a lot of complaints, and I tell them, you know, you got to go to the principal. This was more an administrative issue, and they said they had already talked to. I think it was with, you know, Mangers before, and then they said, I mean, was that who the finance person?
Mangers,
was?
uh-huh.
Mangers, or yeah. And they said they'd talked to you as well. So I felt like they already felt like they'd gone up the chain of command, and they wanted a policy, you know, change. They thought maybe it was a policy change.
You know what, though, they should know that, because that was a long time ago, for them to bring it up another, you know, 4 or 5 years down the line with all the changes.
and they've never talked to me.
Or me.
Or because I would have told them that we were in the process
Okay.
of exactly what was going on.
Well, maybe I misunderstood them, but I, you know, so I just wonder about those instances where it is an administrative thing and it's sort of a board thing, you know, to have to make them I don't know, make another call to get
Well,
an
then,
answer when
You
they've
know
been.
what I would do, Karen, in that situation? I would have brought that up as under the future agenda. I would have said, so, how do we feel about flexible saving or flexible spend, whatever that
Uh-huh.
is? Could we have that up as a?
Well, but it's
agenda
already
item?
being worked on, I guess. I mean, so.
Yeah, I mean,
This is just how to deal with the constituent.
As far as that goes. And you can let them know it's been worked on, like
Yeah.
it's been looked at.
We either well, I didn't know, so it is okay for me to give the answer?
I mean, if it's on the docket already, right? I mean, it's already something that's on schedule to be looked at.
Okay.
as long as you okay it by them, just make sure if you're gonna give an answer, just make sure.
If somebody asks you a question, I email you an answer.
I can give them that answer.
Yeah, unless I say don't tell them.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Right.
no, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe I'm wrong, and I think
That's fine.
I'm okay, yeah.
Teresa.
I'm going to make a comment. I don't know, I think we read it in the book, you know, The Art of School Boarding, I think that was the book, on what the chain of command should be when someone comes to you, right? If they have an issue, whether it be with a coach, whatever that be, they need to follow the chain of command. Is that where I read this? They need to follow the chain of command. And that's what I always tell folks, because I do have them ask me questions. A lot of times they come to me at work because they know where I'm at, and I tell them that exact same thing, you know. Go to whoever, whether it be a teacher, start there, and then work your way up. If you don't get, you know, clarification on your answer, or you're not getting what you need, then push it up. But that's how I always respond to them from
Thank
that
you.
perspective.
And I've done that many, many times on, you know, student, parent type teacher issues. But
And I think most of my stuff doesn't even pertain to like complaints. It might be something about different stuff. I guess what I'm trying to say is that from shooting it directly to you, it might just be a question. You see the stuff I
like a
send you.
fact.
Right,
Have I,
yeah, no,
I don't usually have it, but I'm just trying to figure out.
this was a little bit of a different situation. It was kind of, they had never addressed.
It's a teacher.
It
I mean,
was a teacher.
yeah.
Meaning the first, they're a constituent in the community,
Yeah.
but they're an employee in our district. They should have called and asked me before they asked her. They've never talked to me.
And the husband hasn't?
No.
Okay.
Because that's
Not ever.
that's completely an HR issue.
It's apparently
Yes.
an HR issue.
Yes.
And when I responded, all they had to do was call me. I would have been, and that's why I said, I'm like, just tell them to call me, I'll give them everything they want to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's never been a staff member that's ever called or emailed me that I haven't told them.
This topic was familiar though, so I think, so I don't know if you guys remember, somewhere it was addressed a long time ago, maybe right when you were coming on, right when, but somebody had brought something like that up somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I think other teachers have wanted it too, all along. And I didn't know if it was a union issue or.
Well, part of it is, we're looking at, there can be a cost to the district. The district will have to upfront the money to put into the account to start it. The teachers can pay for the fees, but the teachers will have to pay for the upfront or the district will have to pay for the upfront costs. They didn't bring it, I've been through 2 contract negotiations.
Yeah, I wondered if it had come up.
I mean, so
If
some of that should
it
DEA.
were that important to me, I would have had it at the table.
Right, so those employees should have went to the DEA maybe.
Well,
and had
so
that
just here's my
conversation.
example, Lisa. So I had a football parent call me and I said, I think I referred it to you, and then you called them. It was about bleachers, you remember that, or the Spirit or whatever. Should I have not sent that to you? Should I have said we need to go to either Welsh or Kreider for that?
That's something they would have handled.
So should I have told them, hey, don't go, I should have
That's
sent.
how I've always worked with boards, is that if someone would have called with something like that, the board member sends them back to the AD or whoever is the appropriate person. I've had board members say to me before, who's the appropriate person? Hey, here's the scenario, who do you think they should talk to? And that's what I'm used to doing. If this board wants to operate differently, we'll
No, I'm
operate
just saying I
differently,
didn't
you know?
know that I'd made a
Yeah.
mistake and sent it to you.
Well, and I'm not so
Because
sure
that
that it's a
was-
mistake, because at least with the prior administration, they didn't want us to have that direct line conversation with the administrators.
But
So
I
if-
mean, the parent should have contacted.
Right, but if
yeah.
they email Brian, do you want him to forward the email to you and then you disseminate it, or should he forward it directly to Kreider, because then that takes you out of the loop, and then you got a board member interacting with an administrator.
But you don't want the parent just to contact the.
The difference is, does the parent have to make the initiative, or can the board member say, I'll ask that that appropriate person to call you?
No.
I think I'm gonna, and Beth, I don't wanna put you on the spot. I think the best thing for you as far as the board member goes, you need to put it back on the person to make the call. Because if you take it and you go straight, you're doing the work for them. They need to do it for themselves. And then if they come to you and you say you need to go to the principal, and then they come back and be like, the principal did nothing, then that's when it goes to the next step. And I don't wanna put you on the spot, but you dealt with that last year. We talked about it for a long time on the phone one day with, I think it was soccer or something like that. Somebody had called and asked you a question and you're like, I've never, you know what I mean? And you were trying to play the middleman, I think, somewhat trying to help the parent. And you're like, I will never do that again. I'm going to call them to call. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's
It's not like solving it for them, it's just getting them so they don't have to make that extra call. Like, you know how you get reconnected when you call customer service on 800 line? Oh, you need to talk to this person, and you just pass them off. It's like, you're not making the call. I just don't know of other elected officials where that happens. You know, usually you call somebody, they get somebody to call you. You don't,
well,
they don't
and I think if they called me and they needed to talk, if the parent had called me, then I would have taken it back to the principal. I wouldn't make the parent call.
Okay, so they
Yes.
wouldn't have to call twice.
They wouldn't necessarily have to call twice. If somebody had come to me and I needed to go down to Greg in the athletic department, I would have called Greg and said, hey, this parent just called me, you need to call to take care of it.
Okay.
And
you do that too?
No, Renata will ask them, have you talked to so-and-so? And if they say no, then she either takes a message or they say, I'll call. They don't even get through to me.
And I don't even know if this is that big an issue, but I think it's certainly something we can address in that retreat. Once again, this is another kind of board functioning,
Yeah,
how we
that's good.
communicate, and we'll definitely address it in the retreat.
I just have one comment.
Yes.
Do you want us to give you a heads up? Because I like to give you a courtesy.
I love it when you give me a heads up.
Okay.
Right, and that's what I was saying about missing the action, because if you go directly to so-and-so,
Right.
then maybe the administration, you're left out of the loop, because they may not necessarily come back and forth. So, and that's definitely something we can discuss too, just that what is best. And Retha would be a good person, she's worked with tons of boards, so she would be a good person to kind of help us on that communication piece, what is best, and, and how do we handle that? So, any other items that you'd like to see, either for future board meetings or things to add to the retreat?
Or other sources group that county tax, we discuss plan for communication plan.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
County tax communication plan? That's how that's gonna be communicated
Sure,
out?
yeah, we'll be
Put
back
out?
to talk to the board about that. Yep, absolutely.
That's a good one.
Are we going forward with that for sure then, or how's that?
We're voting next month.
I think we'll vote on it in
We're voting
August.
next
We're
month.
voting next, that's what I thought, okay.
Yep.
So have we decided if we're gonna pay for the ACT or the SAT?
Heather will work on
That's
that
on other
as
too.
soon as she
That's
gets
already
back.
on the other
Right,
item.
because that's in September, right? Yeah, they take the ACT in September. I think.
Who takes?
The juniors.
No, it's April.
We don't give it, I mean,
They
it's
take
off
it
the
in the
process,
spring.
right? We take it.
Right, it's offered like every so many months, but the one where the entire school takes it.
That's not
Is
this
it
year.
April?
It's
Okay,
April, right?
Okay, so we have time.
Yeah, so then that's on Heather's
September
list.
again, so.
Yeah.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, that's already on others, so anything, no? Okay, does anybody else have anything else? Well, thank you all again for another, good meeting, nice and long. I said 9, because Beth said she needed to pack, but with all the questions, we're back at 10, so here we
It's
are.
all your fault, Beth.
No, you remember I told you 9, you said you needed to go home and pack, but it's 10, so. All right, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All right, thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Karen. Any
Well, no, they did it. It's those.
Cheryl, I'm hanging up, okay?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, have a good time.
Bye, Cheryl.